Welcome to Travel Stories Unpacked, the travel podcast where we talk about all things from the silly to the serious and everywhere in between. I am Ashley Newton.
And I'm Annie Yu. And today we are talking about top destinations for women in 2025. And before we get started, we just want to lay this disclaimer out. This is not about politics. You probably don't want to hear our politics, and we don't want to hear yours. We're just here to talk travel because we all love to travel.
Additional disclaimer, while we're going to say that some of these are safe destinations, we can't guarantee your safety anywhere. Same goes for whenever you're working with travel partners or your travel agent. All you can do is be informed and prepared. So this is not us giving like a stamp of approval necessarily, just sharing some ideas.
Yep. I love it. I think we covered most of it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll give a really long disclaimer at the end, depending on how
like the end of a drug commercial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Side effects may include.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, when I was researching top destinations for specifically women in 2025, it just seemed like it would come up hand in hand with articles about solo travel too.
Yeah.
So are we just trying to get away from it all?
It's funny that you mentioned that because in my research, I did see, and I didn't write it down, but there was a statistic basically saying that the amount of women that are interested in solo travel is projected to keep increasing. So we are definitely going to see this trend, I think, more throughout 2025 and probably into 2026.
You know why? Because we're sick of it. And we just need to get away.
Alone.
Leave the kids, leave the husband, leave the wife, whatever.
Yeah. And something I found interesting about this, and I have been no stranger to saying this out loud, is that solo travel isn't really something that I am naturally inclined to, but I do think that there is definitely something to be said about going through that experience. And especially, I think, as a woman, finding that sort of independence and that sort of confidence that comes along with having an experience like that.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of these types of trips are about kind of like a wellness journey almost.
We're not going to say eat, pray, love. We're just not going to do it.
No, we're not. I didn't say it. You said it.
I know. We're not going to say it.
But I know I was thinking it too. But
that movie, it gives it a bad rep.
It does. Because I'm sure India would be I've never been, but I'm sure it'd be a really, really cool experience.
Couldn't even tell you that's where the movie took place. That's how much I didn't like that movie. Just blocked it out as best as I could.
So anyway, if you remember that movie, let us know. That was Julia Roberts, right?
Yeah, and I do like her as an
actress.
So
we're not talking about the eat, pray, love thing. I mean, it really, truly, it does get a rap, right?
Yeah.
You want to go to India and do yoga, do that. Who cares, honestly? But it seems like a lot of these types of, I say adventures almost, because now it's not like vacationing. It's not a drop and flop that, you and Jeff have used the term in the past.
I wish I coined it, but no.
I know, it's so clever, right? It seems like a lot of these trips are more about just kind of like finding confidence and, strength within yourself rather than just going to a beach and bar hopping up and down, a boardwalk.
Which I can't say I'd recommend if you were traveling alone as a woman.
I wouldn't recommend, if you go to Jersey and do that, I think that's fine. Like the Jersey Shore.
Oh, I don't think I'd bar hop alone as a woman in Cleveland. I just don't think I would do that.
Fair. That's fair. Well, I think that leads to a larger discussion. Yes, sometimes these articles are misleading, because it makes it sound as if maybe, where you live currently isn't safe. So it's hard to generalize an entire country based on these listicles. So,
fit in another disclaimer.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. For example, Germany, right, was on the list of top destinations for me anyway that I found.
Was it?
Yeah.
It didn't come up in any of mine.
Really? Yeah. So Germany was on the list. And I can't speak for all of Germany because I've only been to Berlin.
Sure.
But I will say it's incredibly affordable. The public transit's great. And a lot of people spoke English. But were there times and parts of the city I was in where I definitely should not have been in alone? Absolutely. You know what I mean? I think I told that story before when a friend referred me to a bar in this neighborhood in Berlin. I got off the train. I'm like, absolutely not. I turned back around.
Yeah,
it takes a lot for me to say that because I usually be like, check it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you have to be cognizant of your surroundings, just because you're in a major international city doesn't mean that it's not going to be not dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like we always talk about, like, use common sense. It's
Yeah.
not even just when you travel, just like in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be aware of your surroundings, make good choices, all those sorts of things.
So now that we got more disclaimers out of the way, what do you think makes a destination great for women, whether you're traveling
Ooh.
solo or not?
That's a good question. I definitely think that it comes down to sort of what experience you want first. Like we always talk about, like qualifying your vacation, right? Or working with your travel agent to do that. But then once you align with the sort of experiences that are available, I think when it comes to traveling as a woman, finding a destination that works for you is all about understanding what to expect. Because me personally, I don't have an issue sort of adjusting to the culture, right? And, you know, sort of abiding by whatever is in policy there. It's just knowing that ahead of time so that I can adjust accordingly, whether it be the way I dress or the way I carry myself or, you know, those sorts of things. But I think the number one thing is not having to worry about it too much. You know,
in terms of
like being respectful of where you're going and adjusting, you know,
and then being respectful of you though too as a visitor.
Yeah, and just not feeling sort of like on edge.
So then, I mean, it seems like some of the countries we looked at overlapped in that sense. For me, it was a lot of the Nordic countries.
Sure, yeah.
Which I've been fortunate enough to visit most of them. So Nordic countries, that's Iceland, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. And I completely agree, especially Iceland.
Yeah, so I did.
Which I know you have zero interest in, but.
You know, though, okay, so I have said that. Like, it doesn't really pique my interest. You know what I mean? I'm not like, ooh,
but gender equality there, though, is.
they did kind of sway me, I'm not going to lie. Because I was looking at these lists and I was looking at all these different resources. And what I found interesting and sort of exhausting is that they were also different. You know, you had some that were repeat appearances and some that weren't. And like, that's another thing. When you are thinking about traveling as a woman, there are certain considerations that I think you are going to have that you might not otherwise if that's not how you identify. So being able to go to a trusted travel agent and pick their brain about these sorts of things instead of trying to make sense of these lists on your own is so interesting. And can I tell you one example? Yeah. Because you already sort of brought up this destination is the Eat, Pray, Love of it all.
Oh, no.
So the first article that I looked at was from USA Today, and it had 6 safe destinations abroad for women. But I do want to emphasize that this was definitely more of like traveling as a group, like with your girlfriends or whatever. And they had India on there as a good destination. And basically, you know, saying that they have had a reputation with, you know, safety issues, but they've done a lot to try to improve that. And, you know, female travelers can hire a private tour guide or a car to get through cities, and that there are groups that are like women only and those sorts of things and those opportunities. But then in another article I was looking at from globalrescue.com, listed India as one of the 4 worst countries to travel as a woman solo. Yeah. And I don't know, to me, having other women around me isn't going to make me feel that much safer. So it's like...
You haven't met some of my female friends then.
But it's interesting how like, one country could end up on, and both of these were pretty like recent articles.
Well, that's why I mean, I think a lot of these places and articles and whatever else they're really subjective. What I consider safe maybe isn't what you consider safe.
True.
Or vice versa. Yeah. But I love that you brought up the solo group because it seems contradictory. But that's a rising trend in travel for women in 2025 is you are a solo traveler, but you still want to be able to travel with some group, whether it's for safety or otherwise, and
or social reasons.
Yeah, social reasons, but you can still kind of do it on your own. And Insight Vacations, they offer a lot of really great tours globally. So if you've ever been on a female or part of like a female women only tour as a solo, or if you join with your friends, let us know. I really am curious how that works. Yeah, because you know me, I'm a very avid solo traveler
for sure.
I will say, for me, the safest I've ever felt has always been Japan. So everyone knows in Japan, like, or specifically within Tokyo, the public transit system is unlike any in the world. After a certain time of day, there are some trains that are for women only.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised that didn't come up in any of my lists. Were there any other places that came up in your research that you have been to firsthand?
Yeah. New Zealand, which is to this day, like I've always said, if I were ever going to move anywhere outside of the US, I'd move to New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's just a whole, and I swear it's not because of the Lord of the Rings thing, but it could
Don't
be.
hurt.
But it doesn't hurt the appeal, that's for sure. So New Zealand, I believe you can visit there on a 12-month like working visa. So because of that, there's a large backpacking culture in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly safe. If you refer to what I believe is the Global Peace Index. I don't know if you came across that.
Yes.
Yeah. So New Zealand's always like ranked like top 5. So because of the backpacking culture, there's a lot of hitchhikers, which normally as a solo, we've all seen that Lifetime movie, right?
America can't handle hitchhiking. No. We have proved that. We lost our privileges.
No, can't give us anything. But in New Zealand, if you hitchhike, you can text, fact check me in case I'm wrong, but the number is 7233, which spells out safe. And you text that number with the details of the car that you're hitchhiking, and they'll track you to make sure you're safe.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
That's pretty
like
neat.
the actual government? Or is this like another
Or it's like an
organization?
Yeah. But yeah, that's a really cool thing, New Zealand. And overall, like, it's just a really friendly culture. And it's a cultural thing for sure.
Yeah. They came up in my list as well in that Global Rescue article. Yeah.
Yeah. Another place I've been lucky to visit as a solo traveler, Switzerland came up.
They were on one of my lists.
Yeah. It's the only thing dangerous there is how expensive it is. It's dangerous to my bank account.
Yeah.
Come on, Switzerland.
Looking at mine, I haven't been to any of these places yet.
Yet.
But is there anything in your research that is like a bucket list destination or that maybe now you want to go to after doing this research?
Taiwan's been on my list for a long time. So within Southeast Asia, Taiwan's always been considered like one of the most progressive Asian countries. They just fully legalized same-sex marriage only a few years ago. And to this day, I think it's just them and I want to say Thailand, which Thailand came up on my list too as being very LGBTQ friendly. But Taiwan has always been a place I would love to visit. Spain.
Yeah.
But maybe not in the immediate future.
Well,
Just,
wait till they want you.
I'll wait till I'm welcome. And not because I'm a woman, but because I'm a person.
Because you're a tourist. Yeah, just flat out. They're equal opportunity hating tourists right now.
Listen, if you're gonna hate someone, hate everyone equally.
That's my personal motto.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely the Netherlands. But again, I want to say the Netherlands, but really I've only ever been to Amsterdam. So I can't speak for the entirety of the country as a whole, but
yeah, of course.
And even within Amsterdam, of course, we all know about the red light district.
Sure.
I'll say this. Everything you've ever heard about the red light district in Amsterdam, it's all true. I'm just going to leave it at that because, this podcast is sponsored by KHM Travel Group. So, and I like my job. So I'm going to stop talking about Amsterdam now. If you want to know more, maybe email us and I might consider replying.
Yeah.
So
take it off there.
Yeah. But I'm just going to leave it at that. But yeah, I think as far as solo travel, I've rarely been in a place where it's like, where I've ever had a moment where I'm like, holy crap, like I'm in danger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been incredibly blessed throughout my travels in life in general that like I've never often been put in situations where I'm like, and honestly, I'm a pretty cautious person. So even if the second I start to feel like things are getting hairy, I'm just gone. I am out of there like before anybody else could even sense it. Like, yeah, that's just, but you gotta listen to your gut. And if the worst thing that happens is I like leave a little early somewhere, like that's okay. Yeah. Like I'm okay with taking that risk personally. But, a few places that popped up on my list, again, I was looking at like different articles and something that I found interesting were the places that were popping up pretty consistently. So there were really only 4 that popped up on all my lists. So I was looking at an article from USA Today. I was looking at an article from Global Rescue, and I was looking at an article from Expatsy, maybe? I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. So I was looking at those sources, and there were 4 destinations that were repeatedly coming up as safe for women, and specifically safe for trans women, maybe non-binary, gender fluid. So those were Finland, Iceland, Ireland, and Canada. And I just want to personally take this time to say...
What an interesting mix.
I just want to say, we love Canada. Canada is great. Yes. Nice people.
Love Canada. They're the best upstairs neighbors we could ever ask for.
Beautiful country. Big fans of Canada here.
Except Niagara Falls.
Canada. No, you don't like the U.S. side.
Oh, not the U.S. side.
But the Canadian side, gorgeous. Nothing
you
negative
even did that better than us.
Yep. So, keep that in mind. Way to go, Canada. But
Keep it
literally,
up.
I did think it was interesting to see those 4
Like
on
Ireland.
all of those
Never would have
lists.
guessed.
And I cannot wait to
Yes,
go
yes.
to Ireland.
Oh, I can't wait to
So
hear
then
about
I
that
will have
trip.
gone to 2 places on the list because
Yeah.
the only one I've actually been to is Canada.
I was lucky enough a few years ago to visit Banff. Tip, if you ever visit Banff, stay in Canmore instead. It's just south of Banff. Everything's way cheaper. It's just an
Ooh.
extra like 15, 20-minute drive. And flying there, I flew into Calgary, which is a place I've always wanted to visit. Calgary is like super artsy, like really friendly. Like it almost reminded me a lot of Portland, honestly.
Okay. I've
And-
never been there.
Portland?
Correct.
Yeah.
But also the other one.
Calgary.
Correct.
Yeah, no, it's Portland is one of those places like usually when we think about safe, female friendly cities in the US, cuz let's face it, the US is a big place with many different types of cities.
Let's just say none of them came up on these safe lists though.
But if you were going to search safest cities for women in the US, Portland's always on there along with, San Diego and Sacramento. Yeah, Sacramento's usually on there. So like the West Coast, maybe skip the middle and then come back to the East Coast. I'll leave it at that. One of the coolest things I ever did in Canada was same trip. I had a rental car, which I had 0 kilometers, like no limit on. I'm like, sweet. So I ended up driving out to the Badlands where there were dinosaur fossils. It was a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Ooh, that's
cool. It was
cool.
really cool. There's something really unsettling when you're driving and you look over and suddenly the ground's gone.
Nope.
And because it's like it's like canyons basically.
No.
And you just go in and out and like you'll see like the dinosaur bones and like it was pretty cool.
No.
But also home to one of the nastiest porta potties I've ever seen. So all the fears I've ever had about using a porta potty pretty much almost came true on that trip. So
no comment.
I take it back. That's the only time I ever felt unsafe as a female solo traveler. The nastiest,
victimized.
It was a hate crime, honestly.
No, so Annie, whenever we come up with these topics, we always sort of look at what's going on and what we want to talk about. And like, we saw International Women's Day was going to be coming out like right around this time.
Yeah.
So, we were like, and we're women. So this topic does feel sort of like close to home. But I think that it also ties into just like this larger trend of like we were talking about like women traveling on their own and like feeling empowered to do so or taking
that's what
those
it is. That's
girls
the word.
groups.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's empowerment.
Because like growing up, now granted, we didn't really have like travel money, you know what I mean? But like I could have never have imagined my mom like going on a trip with a bunch of girlfriends when she was my age.
Oh, no, yeah.
Not even just like the means, but it just wasn't really something that I feel like women did.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love like, Valentine's Day was just a few weeks ago. The whole idea of Galentine's Day.
Yeah, I know you're a big Galentine's
I know,
fan.
and you probably wouldn't think that, but like I love the celebration of these friendships between women because for so long, like women have been pitted against each other.
Yeah,
like we have to compete with each other. I have to tear you down in order for me to feel better. And like I am so glad finally that narrative is changing. And for that reason, you might think like, why are we even having this topic? Why are these? It's not that these destinations are just for women.
Like what we were talking about, it's just who wants to worry about all of those things on vacation?
Nobody.
Who wants to worry about, am I acting right? Am I assimilating right? Should I think twice before walking to my room at night or something like that? And, of course, we always are exercising. Use your best judgment and do your own research and figure all that out. But at least now you might have a starting point. And if you're like me and you haven't really ever felt super confident in the idea of traveling alone, but like the idea of sort of saying that you did it, you know what I mean? Like it does feel like something I should do at this point.
You know what? I definitely went through those. I'm in my 20s and I don't know what to do with my life kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I did that like twice because my 20s were that rough.
But I just think it's kind of cool that like as a culture, as a society, we are having the conversation where now it's, I feel like as a woman, I should have this experience by myself. 50 years ago, that conversation was not happening. That was not the prevailing idea. And honestly, you would have been...
You've been like, what?
Yeah, like, what the heck? This lady's crazy. Like,
and that's why we're sitting here today now talking about, where this is progressing. Like,
we want to hear from all of our women out there. So if there's a place that you've traveled that you have felt particularly safe, or that you think is just a great experience as a woman traveler, let us know. And same goes for, maybe your no list, maybe some places to avoid that you're like, maybe only with a group, or maybe never again.
Yeah. And for the fellas listening, I challenge you to ask the women in your life, have you ever had to think about this or that or this when traveling? Because I probably can guarantee you that you never had to.
Yeah, I don't even think they'd know where to start asking those questions. But like literally just like even watching your drink, watching what you eat, knowing what you're allowed to dress, knowing, all of those sorts of things. Those are things that we look into anytime we plan on leaving, even my
here.
little bubble, you know what I mean? Like my 40-mile radius, like it starts to become a thing almost immediately. To me, not your fault that you don't have to experience it. It's your responsibility to think through it a little bit and show compassion to people that do have a different life experience than you. And something that has come up repeatedly in my travels is sorry, grandma, sorry, mom, if you're listening, was the idea that being polite was the most important thing.
No, it's not.
Being polite and not being offended. Like if somebody comes up and talks to you on the street, even if you're uncomfortable, you politely dismiss them. And not just because little girls should be polite, but because it's more likely that something bad's going to happen to you if you're not. And like now that I'm traveling, I have to sort of get out of that when I'm like, I know you're just trying to scam me. Like, I know you just want like me to give you a bunch of money for this sun hat on the beach. And like, I'm not going to do that, but I can't politely dismiss you. I have to be rude. So like, sort of shifting that mindset and like stuff that has been ingrained in me from the minute I was born to I'm a participating woman in society, in travel, going to these new places. You do have to sort of rewire your brain a little bit to be like, polite comes second, safety comes first.
Yes. So speaking of safety, let's refresh some tips on how to stay safe.
Wolverine,
no matter what.
Keys at all times.
Wolverine keys.
And then claw to your cups at all times. No, we're having a bit of fun there, but honestly, those are good tips.
But this applies to, I think, even being at home and or abroad, but obviously always staying connected, making sure that you're sharing your itineraries with your friends and family so they know where you are, where you are at all times. As somebody who's done a lot of solo travel, I always made sure to share my itinerary with my sister, with some friends back home in different time zones.
If you live alone as well, something to consider is maybe not posting the exact dates that you're going to be traveling and posting like when you're checking into the airport, because you have to think about your security when you return home as well and keeping your home safe while you're not there.
I struggle with because I got to let the haters know.
Yeah,
I'm not spending all this money to do all that just to not post on social media. Get out of here. Anyway, another one, buy travel insurance.
Oh, yes.
Like, I feel like we harp on that almost every episode. Buy travel insurance. Because especially if you're alone, you get hurt. Like, you know what I mean? You're going to feel, you're on your own. You have no help.
Right.
And you're going to be out 10, 20 grand.
Yeah. Plus, you're a responsible grown-up woman. This is something you should do as a responsible grown-up woman.
Yes. If I'm ever visiting like a new place that I know is not predominantly like English speaking, I always think about accessibility. So language, what languages do they speak? What phrases should I pick up? How's the public transit? And how's the city laid out? Is it like Chicago where everything's a grid? Or is it like Pittsburgh where nothing makes sense? Right? Or Boston. I hear Boston's pretty bad.
Or the wheel designs that we see a lot in older cities where it's like the circular going out.
Boston.
Yeah. That's Boston?
I think that's that. Yeah, and DC, I think.
I was just thinking of Paris. I think they're like that.
Well, and I don't think Paris is the easiest city to get around. I've never been, but that's what my sister told me. She lived there. But anyway, I know this topic kind of led a little heavy at some points, but it's important to talk about.
When we tell you at the start of every show, we're silly, but we're serious, and we're everywhere in between.
Yes. I guess my final thought on this is that as women, like especially women travelers, like you are allowed to take up space in that world, in this world, in any world.
Yes.
And empower yourself and others, and you do it your own way as long as you're not hurting anybody else.
Yeah. And I guess my note for this is if you are wondering, does this apply to me? Do you feel like a woman? Because yes, then this applies to you. Do you identify as a woman? Then you're a woman, and this is an episode all about you, babe. That's all I gotta say. All right, Annie.
All right.
So actually, Annie and I will be traveling ourselves after this episode. So we're going to have a little bit of break before we come back to you guys with our next topic. But we hope that you will tune in and maybe we'll tell you all about our latest adventure.
Oh, Lord. I can only imagine the stories we'll have. If you don't know, we'll be going to Crystal Conference.
Yeah.
Just this little event with, 400 travel agents or so.
Heck yeah. I am so excited. I'm bringing my mom this year. So
I can't wait to meet. And she's our biggest fan.
Yeah.
So shout out to your mom.
Yeah, shout out, Mom. And I'm just so excited for her to get to be immersed in this world of travel that I have so lovingly been a part of for it'll be almost 8 years by the time. I know. So I'm super looking forward to it. But either way, keep tuning in. And then don't forget, if there's not a Travel Stories Unpacked on Friday, then you can probably catch a KHM Today on Wednesday. And that is at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard on our YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe and enable those notifications so you never miss any of your fun travel news.
Well, guys, I really hope that we made you feel like this is a safe space for you to open up about your own experiences. So if you want to share any of those stories, feel free to drop in the comment, or you can always email us anonymously at travelstoriesunpacked@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And while all of the opinions and views expressed in this podcast are our own, it is brought to you by KHM Travel Group, a leading host agency for independent travel agents. So you can go to khmtravel.com to learn more.